Hi, so I did my presentation, right? My chosen artwork was The Youth of Bacchus by Kim Do-jin, and my chosen articles were The Alchemy of Suffering by Matthew Ricard and Aristotle from the Nicomachean Ethics. So the first article I'm going to be comparing it to is The Alchemy of Suffering. So when I first look at the picture, obviously you just see a bunch of skeletons, but the first thing that caught my eye were actually these two skeletons like in the background with devil horns. So when you think of devil horns, you can like connect them to the meaning of evil and like the devil. And Ricard explains how there's always going to be evil in this world, like no matter what. Like sure, you can be happy, but there's always going to be people around you that are unhappy and kind of just like can just drag you down. So this just shows how there's always going to be that evil surrounding everyone. So the skeletons obviously they connect to like the meaning of death, or at least when I think of skeletons, I think of death. And this can be connected to the alchemy of suffering because Ricard describes that death is always going to be a part of life. Like we're always like, it's just gonna happen. We just need to learn how to accept it. And in order to do that, to like prepare ourselves for death, we just need to recognize and eliminate the source. Prepare ourselves for suffering. And in order to do that, we need to recognize and eliminate the source, not for death. The blue and black colors. So the blue, when I think of blue, or like blue represents sadness, suffering, which when we think of suffering, we can connect this to Ricard again because he explains 3 different kinds of suffering: invisible, hidden, and visible suffering. So the color black just kind of represents fear, death, mystery, and evil, which I kind of like connected this to like skeletons are going to be people, and there's always going to be darkness surrounding them again. So yes, again, there's always going to be evil in the world. So Aristotle, I also noticed the skeletons dancing, which is kind of the main. Okay, so skeleton dancing, this can connect to Aristotle because he believed happiness comes after death. So he states happiness then is something complete and self-sufficient and is the end of action. This can be portrayed through the picture by the dancing skeletons because even though they're dead, or like they represent death, they're still happy. So the naked skeletons. Aristotle also mentions that material wealth doesn't always give us true happiness. It can give us like temporary happiness, but not always true happiness. Like, yeah. So their skeletons are obviously naked. They don't have any like name brand clothes, name brand items. They don't have any of that, and they're still happy without any of that stuff. So my artwork, I don't know if I'm supposed to show it, but my artwork, so there's like, I guess 4 main things. There's all these name brand logos, the clouds, the darkness, and the urn. So the logos can kind of connect to Aristotle because he says materialistic items don't give you true happiness. Temporary happiness, yes, but not true happiness. And the clouds, okay, so the clouds, I kind of picture it as like the world, because when I think of the world, oh, there's clouds. So the clouds again represent the world and how it's always going to revolve around materialistic items, and the world kind of just thinks, oh, like if I have this name brand shoe, I'm gonna be happy. But no, that's not always the case, because then we move on to the darkness. And to me, the darkness, it surrounds the cloud, so it surrounds the world, and it represents how there's always going to be evil in the world no matter what. So that could connect to Ricard because he states that. And even though you think you're happy, like with all these materialistic items, there's always going to be darkness around the world and evil in the world that like surrounds us. So the urn and the color yellow. So the urn obviously represents death. So the color yellow, but the color yellow surrounding it kind of represents happiness and peacefulness. And like Aristotle says, you can't be truly happy until you've lived your complete life. So obviously once you're in an urn, you lived your complete life. So this kind of just represents that once you're like finally gone, you're finally going to be at peace, you're finally going to be happy. And yes, all these, that's how these 2 pictures can connect to these 2 articles, because they all kind of just, to me, they say the same meaning. Like they kind of just represent death and happiness, and evil is still gonna be around us. Yes, thank you.